What's the story, Morning Glory? What is the word, Hummingbird? Thank you so much for clicking on my channel and for joining me for this review of Match Me Abroad Season 2, Episode 7, Playing with Fire. So let's get started with Victoria. So Victoria is going to be going on her second date. Her matchmaker, Katarina, has matched her with a comedian by the name of Darren O'Toole. Now, what's interesting about this date is that Katarina is going to be joining them. That's one. And two, they're actually going to watch Darren O'Toole perform his act on stage. So Katerina, Victoria, they arrive at the comedy club. They sit down. They're watching him do his thing. Victoria thought he was funny. She liked his jokes. She laughed, etc. And I think he had a decent reaction from the crowd as well. So when Darren was done with his set, he sits down in the audience with Katerina and Victoria. They do some small talk. Katerina gets up, gets everybody a drink, and then she leaves. Now, the reason why she wanted to join the date was she wanted to make sure that Victoria was going to assert herself and not hide behind this shell. Because one of the issues with Victoria, according to Katerina, is that Victoria does not assert herself. She puts other people's needs before her own. She wants to make sure that the other person is comfortable, even if she's not. And so she wants her to be a little bit more assertive and to look out for herself more. So when the matchmaker, Katerina, decided to get up and leave, I was like, what was it that she saw in Victoria that made her feel like, okay, Victoria's doing really good. Now I can leave? Because to me, Victoria didn't act any different than the way she acted on her first date with the self mutilator, whatever his name was, the guy who put the hot sauce in his eyeball. She didn't act any different from that date. To me, she was the same Victoria. I don't really see Victoria as someone who is shying away from being who she really is. I just see her on a first date. Obviously, she doesn't know this person, and so she wants to put her best foot forward. And so she's very nice. She's nice, she's accommodating, she's being very sweet. I don't necessarily see her as, oh, she's afraid to be herself or she's trying to avoid confrontation. I just see her as being like a really nice person on a first date with somebody. But I don't know. But at some point, her matchmaker felt like she was doing fine. So she gets up and she leaves them alone. So they're sitting there talking. Victoria finds him very cute, funny, quirky, and the date is going well. Now, the thing that they have most in common is that their tattoos. Darren is he says he has over 100 tattoos, about 150 tattoos. So he's tatted all over his body. Victoria has a couple of tattoos of her dogs. So that's really what got the conversation flowing, was the talk about tattoos. Now, she asked him, "How old are you?" He said he was 27. Now, this kind of caused her to pause a little bit because Victoria is 39. And so she's not really sure about this age gap, but she's still going to go with the flow because she likes this guy. And he in turn likes her. He tells us that he finds her attractive. So he's having a good time. She's having a good time. They're talking about tattoos. They even plan a second date. Now, get this, y'all. Their second date is going to be at a tattoo parlor because they both plan to get matching tattoos. And I was like, see, this is what Katerina should have stayed for. I wish Katerina was there when they made these arrangements to get matching tattoos after one date. I wish Katerina was there because I'd be very interested to know what Katerina would have said. But I felt like it was way too soon, and I understand that even if they never see each other again, it's still going to be a tattoo, hopefully that they both like. But if I, I just felt like it was too much too soon. Whether they liked each other or didn't like each other, to get matching tattoos with someone that you don't even know, it was a little bit too much too soon. So I didn't understand that. But to Victoria, she thinks that they're being very spontaneous, they're being wild and crazy. And so she says she's down for it. Let's see if it's actually going to happen. That's going to be the most interesting part. Is it actually going to happen? Let's talk about our boy Tony. Tony's a jerk. Tony's a jerk. He's a jerk. He's the kind of person, look, maybe he should just be paying for a woman's time because I just don't see him really connecting with a real woman who is trying to get to know someone and make a connection and hopefully, get married. I don't see him connecting with a woman like that. He kind of reminds me of the guys that watch a lot of adult content. And so they expect real life to mimic what they see on these videos. And so they're always disappointed in a real woman because she doesn't look or act like the actresses that are in these, adult content videos. He kind of reminds me of that. He has this weird expectation of a woman. And if the person doesn't meet those exact expectations, they're not good enough for him. And he's not really in a position to judge another person because he's not all that himself. Now, someone in my comment had mentioned something about how Tony is a good looking guy, but something, something, something. I don't even think he's a good looking guy because his attitude is crap. His attitude is garbage. Whatever good looks he may or may not have completely vanished after you hear this guy talk for like 5 minutes. There's no redeeming quality about him at all. And the reason why he just really rubs me the wrong way is I didn't like how he talked to Louisa, his matchmaker, in this episode. So let's get into it. So he meets up with Louisa after he had those three blind dates. And these were like literal blind dates where both him and the date were blindfolded. And the purpose of this was for him to really try to connect with a woman on a deeper level instead of just being distracted by her physicality, like how she looks, if her looks satisfy him or not. So the matchmaker is trying to get him to get past that and to try to connect with a person on a deeper level. So she matched him with three women. All of them were blindfolded during their dates. And so now they're talking about how it went. So she gives him the reasons of why she did it. He understood the reasons. And then she tells him that, look, out of the three women that I matched you with, you have to pick one that you liked the most. And then y'all are going to go on a second date. He basically tells her, I didn't like any of them. One of them, the DJ one, he said her voice was too deep. I was kind of concerned about the DJ. I thought maybe the DJ initially was. I thought let's just leave it. Let me just leave that alone. Okay. But he felt like the DJ was. Her voice was too deep. It wasn't feminine enough, and he didn't like the fact that she was a DJ because she works in a nightclub, and he doesn't want to date a woman who works in an environment where anything could pop off. A whole bunch of drunk men. It's not the safest of environments to work in. The other one, he didn't care for her because there was just no connection. And I don't know if he knew or not that she had shorter hair than what he's accustomed to. I don't know if he knew that, but he said there was no connection there. The third one, the one that was really touchy feely with him, that was rubbing all over his bald head and he was touching her arms. He told Louisa that, yeah, he didn't like her because he could tell from touching her that she doesn't work out. Her body was too chubby. So he didn't like any of them. So Louisa basically told him that, you know what, you're going to be one of my most difficult clients to match with because you're extremely picky. And you're so she even said that even though he was blindfolded, he was still distracted by the physicality of the women. He couldn't get past that. He was so focused on what are they like physically that he couldn't even get to know them as people, as a potential partner. He wasn't asking the right questions. Um, they talked about hair length. They talked about, the girl who worked at the nightclub as a DJ. They talked about her being a, so he never really got to connect with any of these women. And so she's like, I don't know what I'm going to do with this guy because, he just doesn't get it. This guy doesn't get it. And what really pissed me off is when he was telling her, like, I don't like it when people say, I'm paying you to do, X, Y, and Z, and I need you to get it done because I'm paying you to do this. This is what I'm paying you for. That's just very condescending. And so that's what he told Louisa. He was like, I'm paying you to, match me with the woman that I want or woman that I like or whatever he said, however he phrased it. But he did use the words, I am paying you to do a service and I expect that service to be done. And I was like, who the hell do you think you are? You couldn't do this on your own for free. Okay, you didn't pay yourself to find women. You couldn't do this on your own for free. But then you are having these crazy expectations on a professional and telling her, I am paying you to do this, this, and that, and that's what I expect to be done. Like, no. And then you are expecting her to find you a woman or whatever that you can connect with, but you're not doing your part in not putting too much emphasis on how they look. You're not even doing your part. You just expect her. Basically, you just want a bimbo. You want an airheaded, beautiful bimbo. That's basically what you want. And that's what you've been chasing your whole life. And it hasn't really worked out for you. So she's trying to do something different for you, but you don't even want to. Anyways, by him talking like that, I would have dropped him as a client. But they have a show to do. Um, like I said before, the guy like him is not going to try to dig deeper. He's not going to try to connect with a woman on a deeper level. He's not going to do that. He wants what he wants. And he wants a beautiful woman that's going to be okay with him being broke, basically, because beautiful women, the kind of women that he wants, they want very rich men. And he's broke compared to the type of men that his type of woman normally goes for. So he wants a beautiful woman that's not going to matter, that's not going to mind him being broke, that's not going to mind him being average on all levels. He's average looking, average bank account, average home, average car. Everything about him is mid. So he wants a knockout, gorgeous, celebrity type looking woman, okay, on a whatever level, like a Kim Kardashian level or a Sabrina Carpenter level or whatever he's looking for. But he wants him to be okay with him being mid. He wants an above mid woman who's going to be okay with a very mid guy. That's exactly what he wants. And I don't know. Like I said, if she's really talented, she could probably find somebody like that. Or you know what? Maybe he can find a beautiful Brazilian woman who doesn't mind him being mid because she's trying to get to America, who's going to use him for a green card. Maybe that's what she should be. That's what Louisa should be concentrating on. Finding him a Brazilian woman who's really just trying to get to the United States, and she won't mind him being broke or poor because all she's going to see is a visa. Moving on to Harold. Harold meets with his matchmaker, Dolly, to talk about how his date went with Amber. So everything went really well with Amber. He really had a good time. And Molly tells him that Amber felt the same way, that she also enjoyed her date with Harold. Molly did have some, she did bring up some concerns that Amber had. So Amber had told Molly that she was a little bit concerned that Harold was on the spectrum because she wanted to know how would they deal with it if their child was also on the spectrum. Like, can this be passed on genetically to their children? And so Molly explains this to Harold that, she had a great time, but this was her concern that you're on the spectrum and how this could affect future children. Now, Harold took it all in stride, but he was a little bit perturbed because when he initially told Amber that he was on the spectrum, Amber acted as if it didn't bother her at all. She didn't ask any questions. The only thing she said was, well, I wouldn't have been able to tell if you didn't tell me that you're on the spectrum. That's all she said. She didn't ask anything further. If she did, they edited it out. So Harold was like, well, if she had these concerns, she should have brought it up to me. And then me and her would have had a discussion about it. So he didn't like the fact that she appeared to have no issue with it, but then expresses some issues with the matchmaker. Harold tells Molly that being on the spectrum, if you are autistic, it's like having a superpower. So that's how he would explain it to his child. If his child should also be on the spectrum, that it's cool. It's like you have a superpower, because you see things differently and you're able to navigate through the world a bit differently and a little bit better or whatever. So that was a great answer. But yeah, I kind of felt the same way Harold felt. Like if she had these issues, she should have brought it up with him, so she can get her information from the source. But then again, maybe she didn't think of it at the time. Maybe the question didn't come to her until later. But even though, she still should have brought it up to him at some point, even on the second or third date, she should have brought it up to him. Okay, so after that, um, they go on their second date, Harold and Amber. They go on their second date. They're going on a boat ride. They're having a really good time. Harold feels like it's very romantic. He even says that he hasn't felt this way since Michaela. Now, Michaela was the woman that he matched with. Where was she from? Was it Prague? I forgot, somewhere in Europe. They really had a great connection, and they continue to see each other or to still be together even after he returned to the United States. But then they ended up breaking up because I guess her job was too consuming. So he says, he hasn't felt this way since Michaela, which is a really good sign. So they're on this boat ride. It's very romantical, and a moment comes up where he felt comfortable enough to tell Amber. He tells her, "I think you're cute," and Amber goes, "I know I am." And so then Amber kind of leaned in a little bit, and she kind of turned her head, I think, so that he could kiss her. No, 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 no. She leaned in so that she could kiss him on the cheek because his head was turned in such a way that she would have been able to kiss him on the cheek. So she leans in to kiss him on the cheek. At the very last minute, Harold turns his head and the kiss lands on his mouth. And so he immediately regretted it. But then he tells us in his confessional that, hey, he had to seize the opportunity. The opportunity was there and he had to seize it. And I thought it was really cute and adorable. I didn't see anything wrong with it. So things are going pretty well, I guess, for Harold and Amber. When they first met for their boat ride, she even commented on how cute he looked. She thought he looked really, really cute. So it seems like, things are going good. And as far as like being holding hands and touching each other, Dolly explains to us that look in Singapore, the Singaporean women don't really do that, so early on in the relationship, like on the first or second date, they don't really hold hands or do anything physical. But because of Harold having very limited time in Singapore, they kind of have to expedite some things to see if there's really a true connection between them. Let's move on to Monica. Lord have mercy. Monica, when we see her, she's still on the phone with Bernardo, her date number one, the younger guy who's kind of like on the fence about having kids. So she's still on the phone with him, confessing to him that she went on a date with somebody else and they kissed. Bernardo was like, and like, what's the big deal? He tells her, I know what you're here for. I understand that you're here to make connections, and I expect you to go out on dates with other people, and things might happen. And I'm like, I'm not crazy about it, but I understand that you're here to make connections with people. So, yeah, like, I'm cool with that. But then he does tell her, I want to see you again. I'm not that crazy, the fact that you kissed another guy, but I understand how it goes and I would like to see you again. So she actually says yes. She was happy. She was excited. She was like, okay, this is not going to deter our plans to get to know each other better. Yes, we'll see each other again. So then she meets up with her matchmaker, Louisa. She talks about her date with Bruno and how well it went. She talks about how Bruno made her feel like Cinderella because he was putting on her skates for her and taking off her skates. And then she talks about how she feels so conflicted between the two men, Bruno and Bernardo. She says, I really like Bernardo, but I know that maybe Bruno is more who I should be with because I know he doesn't want children for sure. Whereas Bernardo initially said he wanted children, but then he said it didn't matter to him if we had kids or not. So she feels all conflicted. And then she starts crying when she's talking to her matchmaker. She starts crying because she's like, I don't know what to do and I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. And I'd rather be the one hurt than hurt someone else. And then Louisa responds with, so you'd rather, just to avoid hurting other people, basically you're saying you'd rather be single and alone for the rest of your life because you don't want to hurt other people. And she tells Monica, people have to go through the hurt and the pain in order to grow. It's like that's just a part of life. So she says that she doesn't. Okay. So then Louisa says that maybe Bruno is the better match for her. And Monica agrees that she does have feelings for Bernardo, but maybe Bruno is the better match for her because he's financially stable and he for sure does not want to have children. Whereas Bernardo was kind of like wishy washy. And Monica even said, I think Bernardo is a little bit of a playboy and he probably told you he didn't want to have kids just to please you so that he can continue seeing you. So she's decided that she's going to go on a second date with Bruno. And I hope she keeps it together. Monica, I hope you keep it together. And I hope that, she doesn't make out with him so that they can really try to get to know each other without the passion and the hormones racing and the attraction, all of that getting in the way. So we'll see how that goes. Moving on to Amber. So, our girl Amber is telling us that after her very hot date with Kevin, because remember, they were making out like a couple of teenagers at that restaurant or at that pub. I think it was a pub. They were like, really getting down and dirty in there. And so after that, they ended up going back to her hotel. So the producers asked her, "So what happened when you went back to your hotel?" She says nothing happened at the hotel. And she said that the communication between them had dwindled after that date. Um, she was kind of like texting him and hinting that she wanted to see him again. He really wasn't being very responsive to that, like, wasn't making plans to try to see her again. So she's kind of disappointed in Kevin. I think when they went back to the hotel, I think he wanted to go, to go all the way with her. And I think she told him no. And I think that's why he started to like kind of pull back a little bit. So she's going on a second date with Glenn. Now, when I saw Glenn, I was like, wow, this is interesting. He's very tanned. Glenn is tanned. And he is a life coach. He was Mr. Ireland, and he's very extroverted, he's very social. So Katarina wanted to match her with somebody that was different from Kevin. Kevin is a lot more reserved. He's more of an introvert. So she wanted to match her with somebody a little bit more outgoing. So Glenn had planned a date at a former prison, like this ancient prison. And it's been made up kind of like a museum, right? Like a prison museum. So it was an interesting date. She says that she finds him very handsome. He was very manicured. And even though his eyebrows were extra arched, she wasn't going to let that deter her from continuing on with the date. So they're going through this museum. They're having a great time. He tells her that she smells really good. Amber's a good time. I think that on a lot of her first dates, like in her life, it's a good time. You know what I'm saying? She's a good time. But I wonder if all of that fun that she brings kind of and she's very flirty as well. She's very flirty. But I wonder if guys kind of see her more as a friend than as something romantic because she's so bubbly and fun and exciting. I wonder if she is also like utilizing the art of attraction, if she's also trying to be seductive, or is it just like they just see her as a ball of fun and then like there isn't really that. I don't know, because Kevin found her attractive. The way he was kissing her down, he found her very attractive, but he wanted more. I feel like he wanted more. I don't know if he does or if he didn't. It's not like I heard them say this, but I think he wanted to go further with her sexually, and she resisted. And then after that, you would think that he would still want to see her because she was so much fun that he'd be like, okay, I understand. I'll back off, but I still want to see you. I still want to get to know you better. But then he kind of got cold after that. So I wonder if all of her energy, her way of being fun is kind of like getting in the way of like the sexual connection that a couple needs to move things further. I don't know. So he invites her to dinner and he invites her to his parents' house. I don't know if he lives there or not, but he invites her to his parents' house, and his mom is going to be making Irish stew. So this was a little bit too much for Amber. Like, oh my God, I'm going to be meeting your parents on our very first date. Like, what? But then you know how Amber is. She's going to go with the flow. I think it would have been a better idea. I don't know why he would take her to his parents for dinner. I think it would have been a better idea if they just would have had like a dinner where they can sit down, just the two of them, and talk. So now she's going to have to like be on alert and to be a little bit uncomfortable because not only does she have to impress him, she has to impress his parents too. Even if this goes nowhere, you don't want to make a bad impression on your date's parents. So that was not a good move. And the fact that he's a life coach, that worries me because he doesn't look like a life coach. Okay, he looks like he wants to be a model or an actor. He doesn't look like a life coach. He doesn't look like somebody who's very concerned about people fixing their problems. It looks like it's a way for him to maybe make some money without being stuck to a 9 to 5. And I don't know. He doesn't look like a life coach. He really does. I don't know what's going on there. I don't think this is a good match for Amber. I'm very worried. I'm extremely worried on how this date is going to progress, but we'll see how it turns out next week. Thank you so much for joining me. I really do appreciate it. On your way out, please do not forget to rate the video if you like this content, subscribe to my channel, and I'll definitely talk to you later. Bye.